Deep in the dusty, sun-drenched streets of ancient Babylon, a young man named Arkad sat slumped over a clay tablet. The air was thick with the scent of roasted grain and the distant braying of donkeys, but Arkad felt none of the city's legendary vibrance. He was a scribe, a man whose fingers were perpetually stained with damp clay and ink, carving the achievements of others into history, while his own life remained a blank slate. He worked from dawn until the torches were lit, yet at the end of every month, his purse was as empty as the desert dunes. He was trapped in the most common tragedy of the human condition, the cycle of earning just enough to survive, but never enough to live. Arkad represents every one of us who has ever looked at a bank account or a paycheck and felt a hollow sense of confusion. We wonder where the money went, why the effort never seems to match the reward, and if there is some hidden blueprint for prosperity that we simply weren't handed at birth. For Arkad, the turning point came in the form of a wealthy moneylender named Algamish. Algamish didn't just give Arkad gold. He gave him a psychological key that would unlock the gates of the wealthiest city in the ancient world. This is not just a story about ancient coins. It is a masterclass in the psychology of wealth that is more relevant today than it was 4,000 years ago. Let's look closely at Arkad's first mistake, which is the same mistake most of us make every single morning. He believed that he was working for himself. When Algamish asked the young scribe why he had nothing to show for his years of labor, Arkad pointed to his worn sandals, his humble tunic, and the grocer who provided his meager meals. He explained that he had to pay for these things. But Algamish laughed, a sound like dry parchment crinkling, and told him the truth that changes everything. He told Arkad that he was paying everyone except himself. He was a slave to the shoemaker and a servant to the baker. This brings us to the first pillar of the deep mind philosophy, the law of the tenth. Algamish told Arkad that a part of all he earned was his to keep. It sounds deceptively simple, almost too easy to be profound, but the psychological shift required to execute it is monumental. Most people view their income as a pool of resources to be distributed to others, landlords, utility companies, subscription services, and coffee shops, leaving only the crumbs for their future selves. By the time they reach the bottom of the pool, there is nothing left. Algamish insisted that Arkad set aside no less than 1/10 of his earnings before a single copper was spent on anything else. Arkad struggled with this at first. He worried that he would starve, or that his friends would mock his ragged clothes. But as the months passed, a strange thing happened. He found that he did not miss the 10th. His life did not crumble. In fact, he began to walk with a straighter back. There is a profound psychological peace that comes from knowing you are building a wall of protection around your future. This is the wealth effect. When you pay yourself first, you are sending a powerful signal to your subconscious mind that your future is a priority, and your brain begins to look for more ways to protect and grow that seed. But saving is only the beginning of the journey. A year later, Algamish returned and asked Arkad what he had done with his savings. Arkad proudly explained that he had given his accumulated gold to a brickmaker who was traveling to far-off lands to buy rare jewels. They planned to sell the jewels for a massive profit and split the gain. Algamish sighed with disappointment. He told Arkad that he had pulled his young tree of wealth out by its roots. Why would you trust a brickmaker's judgment on jewels? If you wanted to know about sheep, you would ask a shepherd. If you wanted to know about stars, you would ask an astronomer. This is the second psychological trap, the lure of the easy win and the danger of unskilled advice. In our modern world, we are bombarded by get-rich-quick schemes, volatile digital assets, and the opinions of friends who are just as broke as we are. Arkad had to learn the hard way that guarding your principal is the most important rule of investment. The brickmaker was swindled, and Arkad's year of savings vanished. He had to start over, but this time he was wiser. He learned that wealth is not just about the money you have. It is about the quality of the information you use to manage it. Arkad began again, carving tablets with a renewed focus. He saved his 10th once more, and this time, when he had a small nest egg, he sought out a shield maker. He loaned his money to the shield maker to buy bronze in bulk, and in return, he received a regular rental fee for the use of his gold. This is where the magic of compound interest enters the story. Algamish called this the army of golden slaves. Every copper Arkad earned from the loan was like a child, and those children could also work and earn for him. Imagine the psychological shift in Arkad's mind. He was no longer just a scribe working for a daily wage. He was now a commander of a growing force. He realized that his wealth wasn't just the coins in his chest. It was the income stream that kept flowing whether he was carving tablets or sleeping. Most people focus on the pile of money, but the truly wealthy focus on the flow. When you see your savings as living workers that produce their own offspring, your relationship with spending changes. You realize that when you blow money on a luxury you don't need, you aren't just spending a few dollars. You are killing a whole lineage of future workers. However, even as Arkad's wealth grew, he faced a new temptation, the desire to live like the rich men he saw in the palace. He wanted the fine wines, the exotic spices, and the silk robes. This is the lifestyle creep that destroys modern fortunes. Algamish warned him not to eat the children of his savings too soon. If you slaughter your calves before they can breed, you will eventually have no herd. The psychological discipline required to delay gratification is the ultimate separator between the masters of wealth and the victims of debt. Arkad learned to wait until his investments produced enough surplus to pay for his luxuries without touching the original seed. As the years turned into decades, Arkad became the richest man in Babylon, not by luck or by inheritance, but by the relentless application of these psychological laws. The king of Babylon eventually noticed that while the city was the wealthiest in the world, the people were struggling. He called for Arkad and asked him if wealth could be taught. Arkad's answer was a resounding yes. He began to teach the 7 cures for a lean purse to the citizens, and his teachings are the foundation of what we now call financial intelligence. The first cure is to start your purse to fattening, which is the 10th we discussed. The second is to control your expenditures. We often confuse our necessary expenses with our desires. The human brain is a master of justification. We tell ourselves we need the latest phone or the faster car. But if we look closely at our lives, we find that our expenses will always grow to meet our income, unless we consciously protest. By capping your lifestyle while your income grows, you create a gap. That gap is where your freedom lives. The third cure is to make your gold multiply, turning every coin into a worker. The fourth is to guard your treasures from loss, choosing security over the fantasy of massive returns. The fifth is to make of your dwelling a profitable investment. Even in ancient Babylon, the stability of owning your own space was recognized as a psychological anchor that reduces the cost of living and provides a sense of pride. The sixth cure is to ensure a future income, looking ahead to the days when you can no longer work. And the seventh, perhaps the most important, is to increase your ability to earn. Arkad told the students that a man's greatest asset is not his gold, but his own mind and his will to learn. In the modern age, we are surrounded by more information than the Library of Alexandria, yet we often use it to distract ourselves rather than to empower ourselves. Arkad became a master scribe before he became a master investor. He perfected his craft. He made himself indispensable. When you increase your skills, you increase your value to the world, and the world rewards value with wealth. The story of Arkad is a mirror. It shows us that the barriers to wealth are rarely external. They are not the economy, the government, or our upbringing. The barriers are the psychological habits we carry every day. We are like Arkad at the beginning of the story, carving the tablets of our lives, but giving away the rewards to everyone else. We are distracted by the glitter of the marketplace and blinded by the desire for instant comfort. But the ancient secret remains. Wealth is a tree that grows from a tiny seed. The sooner you plant that seed, the sooner you can sit in its shade. Think about your own clay tablets. What are you carving today? Are you building a legacy? Or are you just burning through your time to pay for someone else's dream? The journey from the scribe's bench to the palace of wealth doesn't happen with a single leap. It happens with the tenth of a copper, the refusal of a useless luxury, and the courage to seek wise counsel. It is a slow, methodical construction of a life that is no longer dictated by the fear of an empty purse. Arkad's legacy was not just the gold he left behind, but the knowledge he shared. He understood that a city is only as wealthy as its people. When we take control of our financial psychology, we stop being victims of the system and start being architects of our own destiny. We begin to see the world not as a place of scarcity where we must fight for crumbs, but as a land of abundance where there is enough for everyone who follows the laws of nature and the mind. As we close this chapter on the ancient wisdom of Babylon, ask yourself which part of Arkad's story resonates with you the most. Is it the struggle to save that first tenth? Is it the pain of a bad investment based on poor advice? Or is it the dawning realization that you have the power to create an army of golden slaves that will work for you while you sleep? The path is there, dusty but clear, stretching from the gates of Babylon to your front door. Wealth is not a mystery. It is a set of behaviors. It is the psychological discipline to value your future self more than your present impulses. It is the humility to learn from those who have already succeeded, and the persistence to keep planting seeds even when the ground feels hard. You are the scribe of your own life. The clay is in your hands, and the stylus is ready. What will you carve into the history of your life? If you found value in this journey through the psychology of ancient wealth, and want to continue exploring the deep patterns of the human mind and success, we invite you to be part of our story. We are dedicated to bringing you the most researched and life-changing narratives that bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern science. Please subscribe to Deep Mind, and let's continue to unlock the potential of your greatest asset together.